what is the biggest thing that's keeping you stuck? Why do you feel discontent despite achieving what you thought you needed? Something's missing. You've tried other solutions, but nothing has truly fixed your problem, up until now. Download the 3 reasons you're feeling discontent and how to fix it fast at www.jedbrotherson.com and quickly create a clear roadmap that helps you find peace, clarity, and fulfillment. Welcome to the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast, where Jed Brotherson takes you on a journey to confront the roots of your discontent and emerge significant. Each week, we dive deep into themes like overcoming harmful family dynamics, standing up for yourself with courage, speaking out against injustice, and cultivating healthy, authentic relationships. Be sure you visit our website at www.pulverizingthepatterns.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get ready for empowering stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies that help you break free from negative patterns and create a life rooted in self-respect, clarity, and connection.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Pulverizing the Patterns. I'm your host, Jed Brotherson. Today, I'm honored to welcome Kerie Logan, a transformational coach and guide who brings a deeply grounded, spiritually aware lens to the shift from 3D survival patterns into 4D and 5D living. Kerie spent years helping individuals access their next level consciousness through practical tools, emotional awareness, and inner integrity. We'll explore what it looks like to live from a place of sovereignty without skipping the healing work that makes it sustainable. Let's dive into her story. Kerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jed, for having me here. I'm really honored. Thank you.
Kerie, let's start with your journey. Can you give us enough of your background to let us know who you are, how you picked up these negative patterns early in your life that helped you adapt and survive childhood, maybe some of those early 3D survival?
Oh, yes. I grew up like most people, well, not most, but like a good majority of us. I grew up in a unhealthy, toxic home environment. My father was a vulnerable narcissist, and it was like walking on eggshells every day. And when I say a vulnerable narcissist, if he did any act of kindness, if you did not just throw on the syrup of praise, 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 you would be punished. It was the worst thing. And so he was a definite scorekeeper. He was self-righteous, angry, all of that. And so it made me have to be stuck with regret. And sometimes, feeling helpless and just, not many people say this, but when I was a kid, I used to pray that I could be an orphan. I really did not like my family at all. And we're around the same age. And when that movie Annie came out, oh my gosh, I was like, oh, that would be so great. But that now we hear about what happens in foster care. But yes, it was, when I was 10 years old, I asked my parents to even get me into therapy because it was such an unhealthy environment. And so I grew up rather fast and going through, therapy and getting all that stuff clear. I then wanted to practice in college psychology. But when I was doing it, there was parts of it that didn't resonate with me because I don't really like putting a person in a box. And so I basically did what most people do, got a regular, job, was doing management, sales and marketing kind of stuff. And then when 9/11 happened, the economy tanked and I couldn't get a job. And so I went to a friend that gave me a spiritual reading, and she said, you've done everything here in the state of Oregon. The perfect job for you is waiting for you in California. And it's what you're meant to do. It's your gift. And at first I was like, I can't do this. I'm a single mom. I can't afford to do this. And she was like, no, it's going to be handed to you. It literally will be handed to you. And she was exactly right. A week later, like most people, I should say this, I fought it. I fought it so bad until I was going to be evicted from my place, and I was not going to be sleeping in my car with my daughter. That was just impossible. So I called a family friend in the Sacramento area and said, can I stay with you? This is my situation. And they said yes. So I put my stuff in storage, drove down there a week later, got a call from a guy that wanted to meet me at this new center they were building, and the place was called Positive Changes Hypnosis. And I knew a lot about hypnosis and meditation. And when I sat down to show him my portfolio book, I said, he looked at me and he's like, no, I don't need to see it. You've already got the job. I knew I was going to hire you the minute I met you. And so what's really fascinating about my story is I did so well with them that in 2004, they gave me an award as the best coach of the year out of their 65 centers. But then here's the real kicker. The day before Thanksgiving, I got in a disagreement with the owner's sister. And I went to my manager and I said, I think she's trying to get me fired. And she said, actually, she is. And here's your final check. And I looked at her and I was like, how can you do this? I'm the best hypnotist here. I've got 3 months of clients booked with you guys. You gave me an award. And she said, well, she's family and you're not. You got to go. So I went home and I prayed and I was like, God, if this is my calling, my gift that everyone says it is, then give me a sign that's so clear I can't mistake it, because I love what I do. And I was inspired, and I know this sounds so unconventional, but I called that woman up that got me fired, and I thanked her. I left her a voicemail, and I thanked her for firing me, and I said, one day I'm going to look back at this as a blessing in disguise. I don't know why I'm being guided to do this, but I am. So the very next day, a client came over that became a friend, and she had a Thanksgiving card for me. And she said, I feel so bad what happened to you, and I've been sitting on this nest egg, and I want to give it to you, no strings attached. And inside the card was a check for $10,000.
Wow.
And she looked at me and she said, you need to start your own business. And the real cool thing is the company was created by two brothers, Michael Porter and Patrick Porter. And Michael was my district manager. And when I told him what happened, he said, well, the universe had to kick you in the butt because you were so dedicated, you would not have left on your own. And he was true. And it was so neat because even he inspired me to start my own business, because he said to me once, I've met hundreds of hypnotherapists, but I've never met anyone like you. And he said, and when I learned about your spiritual side, because I'm an intuitive hypnotherapist, he's like, that was a cherry on top. You're too good for this place. You really should have your own business. And he even gave me $500 of free software, web development software, Dreamweaver back then. He said, start your own business. Do this, Kerie.
Yeah. What
Pretty
a powerful
inspiring.
story. Pretty inspiring story, right?
Yeah.
Was there a moment that you could look back at where you could see something that catalyzed that shift into where you're working now? Like you're having all these signs from the universe, start your business.
Yes.
What kind of shifted you in what you're doing? Well, I mean, you're already working in hypnosis, I guess.
Yes, there was that, but also I learned about law of attraction, Abraham Hicks. So I saw Esther Hicks when there was maybe 80 to 100 people in the room before they became big. And when I saw her do what she did, I told myself, I want to do that. I want to channel. I want to do that. And I had no idea that I was already doing that, or I already can do that, because I would sit down with clients and a thought would pop in my head and I would tell them what I got, and they would look at me and say, how did you know that? You shouldn't know that. And I'm just like, well, that's just what I got. And so I've learned over the years to trust it and use it with the work that I do. So I can sit in front of my recording mic and I connect, and whatever spirit wants to say to me, say to them, it just flows right out. And it's perfect and seamless every time. It's like I don't advertise it, but I want you to experience it, because once you experience it, it's life altering. It's like that saying, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
That makes perfect sense. What are your initial glimpses of like as you first started becoming aware of these gifts? Like, so the way I wrote that question, like your first initial glimpses of 4D and 5D, what did that feel like for you? Like, some people just seem to think that, or seem to tell us that that's sometimes unnerving.
No,
Try to
I love living in 4D and 5D. There's no way I would want to live in 3D ever again. Ever again. Because I look at it as being stuck in 3D is like you're stuck in the dark. There's shame, humiliation, suicidal thoughts, guilt, remorse, judgment. You feel inadequate, hopeless, despair. There's greed. All this deadly sins we talk about are in 3D human consciousness. Let's just say it. It is. It's right in there. And so 4D is where you are courageous person. You look outside the box. You're grounded, balanced, centered. You have this inner confidence. You're easygoing. You're friendly. You have compassion. You can forgive the unforgivable. I mean, I posted an episode, I told you Monday, teaching you exactly what I did and how I forgave something that would be considered so unforgivable. But I tell you why this is necessary, because it's a parasite. It's so toxic to our bodies.
Well said.
Yeah, it is. It's parasitic. And so I break it all down, because it's for us. It's not for the other person. It's for you to take that mental garbage out, all that trapped energy that's just weighing you down, the grief, the guilt, the anger, the hatred. You're taking the trash out and you're creating a container of love, of light, you're remembering who and what you are and why you're here. Because we have choices. It's like that. Have you seen, it's on Netflix. It's called Black Mirror. Have you seen any of those episodes?
I haven't.
There's one called Eulogy. And it's literally, if you watch it, you see this man where he spent like 30 years stuck in 3D human consciousness. And because he was so stuck in anger, he didn't read a letter where the person was apologizing and saying, I still love you and I want to be with you. Please forgive me. And he didn't. But he didn't realize it until the person died. I know. It's like you had a choice. You could have had happiness and joy and laughter. But instead, you had this miserable life.
Yeah. Just recently, I was listening to Bruce Lipton, and he was sharing the experience of his stepfather, 90-something years old, on his deathbed, pretty much not responding to anything. He said 2 days before he died, like consciousness comes back. He looks at his wife and he says, I didn't have any fun. And the guy was dead 2 days later. And Bruce just says, that's not going to be me. I'm going to have some fun. Yeah. Because if we get stuck in those programs, we just repeat and repeat. Can I ask, how did you move from the intellectual knowing of these ideas, as you were talking about, kind of going from that space where I guess we could say you're still figuring it out, things weren't ideal, but you're still in that positive attitude. How did you go from the intellectual knowing of the ideas to embodying these beliefs to where you're at today? To manifest.
There was something inside me where I wanted to become it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to embody it. I wanted to become it. It sounds so strange, but to me, the inner beauty was more important than the outer. Mm. And I wanted to really just be a clear vessel. I didn't want any of this. And actually, how I stumbled upon this information, which is quite a fascinating story too, is in 2012, I woke up one day and Spirit said to me, "You're going to write this book, and here's a table of contents. Go sit in front of your computer and start typing." And so I did. I just listened and I typed and listened and I typed out 4 chapters. And on chapter 2 is where I learned about the power of our emotions. The book that I wrote is Affirming and Focusing on Living a Better Life. And I learned how all of our emotions have a vibrational set point. And I was also guided that there was clinical research to back it. And I was like, really? And so I discovered Dr. David Hawkins, who did the map of human consciousness. And I was fascinated because he never broke it down into 3D, 4D, or 5. And when I tried to, get in contact with him and tell him, "Do you know what you discovered?" He died that year. So a lot of people wondered if I was channeling parts of him on that section, because it's critical information. And so what I was told, I was guided to create these images. And the images are free on mastertheupperrooms.com. You click on free stuff, free images. There's a whole chart for 3D, 4D, and 5D. And when I created the charts, I was guided then to coach people to have everyone aligned to the vibration of love. Everyone, it vibrates at 500. And so what I would do is I would figure out where they're stuck on the 3D chart, and I would walk them up the steps into 4D. How can I have them look at this situation differently? To try to find out, was the other person abused themselves? So if it was a narcissistic person, and since we create them, seeing if I can get them to have some compassion, some understanding, of that person's life and what it was like for them, which then created them into who they are today. And to actually count your blessings, you're not narcissistic like them. That you can actually change and grow. And maybe this person was your teacher, because we all are teachers and students for one another. I say that all the time. And so your greatest teachers are the ones that gave you the most pain. They really are sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes we forget or discount that to include all of our teachers.
Yes.
In every aspect, whether pretty easy to follow, but we forget sometimes that the clergy give us a whole set of programs in use for many of us to think about and process. You're including them as teachers.
Oh, yes. We all are. I mean, that's part of, the human experience, is we're here on earth to learn lessons. That's really why we're here. And the lesson, as you know, will always repeat itself until it's learned.
Right. Like you mentioned, the person stuck in the patterns in the 3D for 30 years. What traps might keep somebody stuck in this 3D, even if they want to shift out?
Anger, resentment, bitterness, vengefulness, guilt, remorse. A lot of people don't want to feel shame, so they will blame another person, just to get out of it. They use denial as their get out of jail card. And the thing is that's hurting you. It's not hurting anybody else. It's hurting you. And that person could still be dead, but they live rent-free in your mind. It's like, when are you going to evict them? When are you going to find freedom for yourself? And so a lot of times, this is, if you've ever heard about the rules for being human, there's one on there where others are merely mirrors of you, and that's really hard. So what you hate in another person, there's something you hate about yourself. And you got to look at it and you got to clear it, And that's and the last one on the list, is the answers lie inside of you. And that's true because everyone has their own unique pain story. Everybody. We might have similar pain stories, but everyone has their own unique one. And so all those answers are inside of you. You have to look at it when you look at the 4D chart. What do you need to give to yourself? Is it, I need to set healthy boundaries? I need to speak my voice and find my voice. I need to have more self-confidence and courage. I need to stop being so harsh and judgmental. Maybe I need to accept myself more or forgive myself for something that I did. All of that is in 4D. I call them gifts. What are the gifts do you need to give to yourself? Is it self-love?
Yeah. Yeah.
Patience, compassion,
Usually all of those. Let's define some of these terms that we've been talking about. How do you describe the shift from 3D to 4D to 5D? And like what emotional or energetic signatures mark each of these levels?
Well, the easiest way example I can give is, and we all have done this and we've all seen it, when someone is angry, what do we tell them to do? Hey, calm down, get grounded, get balanced, get centered. They're telling you to jump up out of 3D and into 4D because that literally vibrates at the frequency of 250. They're wanting you to calm down because we all know when you make a choice and a decision in 3D human consciousness, you're going to self-sabotage yourself. You're going to regret it. You're not really finding a good solution. All the problems and good solutions are up. You have a clear mind when you're in 4D human consciousness. And so that's why I tell people, that's why people are saying that to you. Because you do have to have a clear mind. You have to calm down. And that's when you can find the right tools for you or for whatever situation you're in. And sometimes if you can't find a tool or a solution, look at it as, well, this is only temporary. And that's another skill is where you're not attached to outcomes. It is what it is sometimes, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you can make peace with that, that can be your saving grace.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I find that a lot of people they struggle with, like, as they sit with this reflection on self, we don't get honest with ourselves and our emotions. Why is emotional honesty essential for this transition process to work? Specifically, just growing up as a guy, not being encouraged to dive into emotions and feelings. So if I'm sitting and thinking, okay, what emotion am I feeling right now? When I first started this journey, I had a really short list of emotions that I could label at my disposal. So emotional honesty from that perspective was more difficult than it is today.
It is, and it's true. I did a podcast episode on Master the Upper Rooms of Human Consciousness specifically about that, because one time I was talking to this one lady over the phone, and I told her, I said, it sounds like you're struggling with anxiety. And she literally yelled at me and said, I don't have anxiety. And I'm like, well, let me go off the list. You just told me you're very fearful, you're restless, you have irritability, you're withdrawn because you're too afraid to go to the grocery store or to the drugstore. You're hypervigilant, you're a worrywart, you're suspicious, your mind stews at night and you can't sleep. That's why you're calling me, and you have an inability to trust anyone. And in that category is anxiety. I don't have anxiety. And I was like, okay, lady, whatever. but she had all the other, emotional patterns, all of that in there. And so it is hard sometimes for a person to recognize that, hey, maybe I do struggle with anxiety.
Well,
And that's being honest. You've got to be honest because yes, she definitely had anxiety. If you can't, go to the grocery store because you're too nervous and afraid and you're sharing, you don't have any friends and you wonder why, it's kind of like she was clearly stuck in this holding pattern and was so rigid, didn't want to move out of it. And so I wasn't able to raise her up or shift her consciousness because she just wanted to argue and she just wanted to fight. And it's hard when you you see that in another person where they're really, it's kind of like their trauma becomes their identity.
yeah.
And their whole world revolves around it. And I've been traumatized before more than once. I've had to do EMDR trauma therapy, from a traumatic experience I had. So really being honest with yourself and connecting into your emotions is key, because when you're stuck in 3D, it's separation. You're so detached from the world. You're in survivor mode every single day. Survive, survive, survive. You're not thriving, you're surviving. And a lot of us want to thrive in life. So you've got to get out of those 3D thought patterns and behaviors and do something different. And that's why I tell people master baseline. Baseline is the frequency of 200 to 250. If you can master that every day, just take one step at a time every day, to where you are grounded and balanced and centered. You're not attached to certain outcomes. You let the little things go. You're focused and determined, and you're willing to learn and grow. That's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. For the listeners, I wanted to share, I can relate to your story really well, because there was a point where I was going through a major life event, and I found myself in the doctor's office telling him, I know that I don't have an acute situation, but I can't breathe. And I'm describing him this, and at this point I hadn't had medical training. Later I became a registered nurse, so I can recall this story from several perspectives now. But as the doctor helped me understand that I was having a panic attack from not managing my stress level, it was hard for me to process, because I thought at the time that it was impossible for a stress in my life to make it so that I couldn't breathe. But I found myself in the doctor's office trying to figure out this problem. That's how poor I was aligned with my emotional intelligence at the time. And so largely part of this show is really to acclimate listeners with, like, these things happen to everybody. Let's find the vocabulary, get the treatment, and fix these patterns.
Yeah.
What does the 5D look like when life throws you a curveball? Like, we've talked about these stresses. One coach calls this 3D zone, like, just where we live every day, the war zone, because it is, right?
It is a war zone. Yes, it is. You're at war with yourself and at war with others.
Right.
It's a miserable place.
Yeah. So when we get into 5D, let's help people understand what that looks like if life throws a curveball in 5D versus in reactionary 3D.
Well, 5D is about love, and I mean unconditional love. And not many of us have ever experienced unconditional love. And it's a beautiful place to be. You're a kind person, you're playful, you're cheery, you're nurturing, you're supportive, you're gentle, you're cooperative. You feel blessed and you have great gratitude and compassion. That's at 500. 540 is you're joyful. You are one with your creator. Love becomes more unconditional. You have constant satisfaction. The world is illuminated. and you desire to support others in achieving a higher level of consciousness. That's what I do. And you comprehend the values of transfiguration within oneself and others. And you have this deep appreciation. 600 is peace. You have this beautiful harmony and serenity and freedom and limitlessness. You're spiritually awakened. You have a greater understanding of the world. You're saintly, you're pure spirituality over religion. You continue evolving, you're gentle. The Holy Spirit flows with you and flows through you. You're one with the Christ consciousness, the God consciousness. And then 700 is to 1,000 is pure consciousness. The focus is on divinity. You're blessed. You could have euphoria. The body is merely a tool of consciousness, and you have complete enlightenment. And so so I'll give you an example, what you were asking. So I operate in 5D. I love being in 5D. It is my world. And I had a doctor make a recommendation that I needed to get physical therapy by this certain date and by this certain time. And no one in his office messaged me. No one talked to me at all about it. And how I found out was I had a birthday last month. And so they want to do, tests on me and all that stuff because, I'm in my 50s now. And I saw his note and I was like, I have 1 week. It was literally, I had to get it done by May 21st, physical therapy. And I'm like, you didn't give me a referral, how can I get this done? And I called his office saying, what the heck is going on? I was getting angry. And she's like, well, I don't see that message in your My Chart at all. And I said, well, I just took a screenshot. Let me email it to you. And I had to talk myself out of it. Once, I hung up the phone. I was like, either I can let this man piss me off and ruin my day, because it's like he's setting me up for failure. Because if I do go to physical therapy, what if it's not, what if insurance won't pay for it now? But I had to calm myself down and remind myself that he's not worth it. He's not worth it. And there's another way I can go around it. So I went to my chiropractor and she knew about the situation. And she said, I'll write you the referral for physical therapy. I said, okay, great. I'll do it. No problem. And so I found a way around it, but I did have to get myself out of that funk because I could have stewed. I could have lost sleep at night. I mean, I literally sat with it for maybe, I'd say, 45 minutes. And then I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm going to stay in my anger. And then I'm going to, and I redirected myself, went out and did something, that I like to do in the garden. And I was just like, I'm just going to let it all go. And then I did. And got back to my happy place.
Yeah. Let's talk more about how we can stay in that happy place. What practices like mindset, energy embodiment, help you support staying aligned with your mission?
Well, sometimes it's meditation. Sometimes it is listening to music. Sometimes it is doing some forgiveness work. And sometimes it is really looking at the big picture of things. Really looking at a bigger picture. And realizing, what can I do to feel better? I mean, for some people, they like to exercise. Some people like, to do meditation. And it all depends on what I feel is calling me in that moment. So for me, I love gardening. So I went outside and it's beautiful here. I was in the flower garden and I was just watering everything and I was listening to an inspiring audio book, or it could be a podcast, just to get my mind off of it and to redirect me.
I like listening to how you reference what you do. It almost feels like an Abraham Hicks influence with how you're not rigid in You just find what feels good in the moment. If it's any of those things, it's all creating the same emotion, right? Like we don't have to get rigid in these rituals or whatever.
Right. I do not. It's what calls me in the moment, and whatever calls me is to raise me up is how I look at it. And if you want to know about manifesting, that book that I wrote is all about manifesting, because in 10 months I manifested over 22 things my heart desired. It was amazing. I tell you how I did it and everything. And so really it's doing is our magic, our power of creation is in 5D human consciousness. It literally is. Like I'll share one good story, and I did a podcast about it. On Master the Upper Rooms. There was a woman that I've known for years that wanted to get pregnant, and she was trying for a year and a half to get pregnant with her husband, doing IVF, all those treatments, and she was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And so I told her, well, this is where you're stuck in 3D human consciousness. You're making sex a job. You should be making love. This baby wants to come in at 4D, not 3D. And so I did all that, and I made her a recording. And what I did was I really focused on the 5D, where I had her imagine the day the baby arrives.
Oh.
And you're holding it and all that. And I even had her apologize to the baby. You know, I did the Ho'oponopono Ono technique, where it's like, you know, I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry that I was, you know, forcing this, and you can come anytime you want. You can come next week, next month, next year. You know, whenever you want to come, you're invited. My room says, welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, here's the amazing thing. She listened to it for 30 days, and she got pregnant in 30 days. Yeah, spent a year and a half struggling, and literally took the force out of it, raised her energy up, got pregnant. And in April, she had a baby girl, and she sent me a picture of her, and she called her, I think, Lunar is her daughter's name. I was just so excited for her. It's like, yes, miracles do happen, but our power in manifesting is in 5D. You've got to see it and feel it and believe it in every fiber of your being. You become it.
Yeah, we can't attract what we're not, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Relationships are a profound catalyst as well as we get into these. How have your relationships shifted as you moved deeper into the dimensional living?
You really learn to accept people for who they are.
A lot easier to forgive.
You can't change them. There's a technique that I learned that I actually, because my son saw me around someone, a family member that was really toxic, and he's like, how can you tolerate them when they say these certain things and act a certain way? And I said, because I love them. I love them. I don't like them, but I love them. And what I don't like is their behavior sometimes, and the way they talk and the way they act, but I love them. And so the technique I told him, I taught myself, it's called seeds blowing in the wind. When I'm around them, I make sure I am grounded, centered, and balanced. And when they say something that would trigger a reaction, I think about it as a seed. Because here's what happened. If I grab that seed, the only one that's going to water it is me, with anger, disappointment, all those negative emotions, and it gets roots and it grows and it festers and it's horrible. So when I see that trigger warning and I look at that seed in my mind, I let it float on by. I don't grab it. I let it float on by, because I realize this is their stuff, their projections, their insecurities. They're trying to bait me or trap me or provoke me. Sometimes I say nothing and I just let it float on by. And it's a beautiful gift I give myself.
It is a beautiful gift. How do we help people recognize whether they're operating out of the past wounds or aligned presence. You know, as you're in aligned presence, you're able to see these thoughts and let them pass. As people that aren't really familiar with some of these concepts, like, could you dive into that a little bit more?
Well, I'm detached. I'm really detached to the outcome. And I know the person's behaviors. I know their patterns. And I look at it as when they start to act up, I have a choice. Do I want to engage or do I want to disengage?
Hmm.
And so I always look at it as I need to be true to me and I need to stand in my place of power, because they will disempower you. And they love it. Sometimes they love it when they get their claws inside of you. You know, it's true. We got to be honest. It's like it makes their day that they pissed you off. And so it's really recognizing, you know, the people you're around and how you respond. And so you got to go, that's why I say you got to go inside yourself and find out, why is that person triggering me? You know, what memory is what memory is in there? What is it? And then when you pull it up, you look at it and you got to say thank you, because I look at it as it's like a wounded kid trying to get your attention. And it wants the attention because it wants to heal. It doesn't want to be separate anymore. It wants to heal. And so, you know, you learn to nurture yourself and be like, what do I need to give myself? You know, do I need to give myself some more compassion, some more patience? Do I need to set healthy boundaries with this person? What do I need to do? Do I need to distance my relationship with that person? You know, instead of them being in my inner circle, maybe they need to be more of an acquaintance. You know, how can I do that? And so it's really figuring out what you can do to give you peace of mind and keep you safe, because that's what boundaries are. It's for your sanity. It's to keep you safe. It's not to hurt anybody or be mean or anything like that.
Right. I like that. That helps all of us. I still work on boundary stuff all the time. What's one pattern that you believe humanity most needs to break right now?
I would say judgment. We really need equality in all areas, because everyone is different. What's going on with the transgender community, the gay community, I think it's just horrible, 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 horrible. It you know, it's like you're born that way. You know, that we should just accept people like that. I mean, Jesus accepted prostitutes. I mean, come on, we can show compassion for other, and whether we don't understand it or don't like it or don't get it, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't give you the right to be so judgmental towards another person, because then someone's going to be judgmental towards you. Like attracts like. That's that saying, what comes around goes around.
Right. What's one thing that you wish more people understood about this journey from 3D to 5D?
Well, that's really why we're all here. We're here to evolve. We're here to complete the ascension process. I mean, I really think that's really, honestly, if you listen to anyone that's channeled, every single person that's a higher being says the only way to be, you know, achieve the ascension process is through consciousness. And when you master your levels of human consciousness, you evolve, and grow and grow and grow until you're complete. You realize you're one with everything. There's no separation. And when humanity can do that, there will be no more poverty, homelessness, wars, you know, all that crazy stuff that's going on in the world right now. All of that will end. It serves no purpose. There is enough money on this planet right now to end a lot of the things that we have going on. There's billionaires, trillionaires out there, you know, but they're stuck in greed. They're stuck in power.
Well,
You can't, when you die, you can't take that money with you.
right. For those that are ready to begin this journey, what's the first step that they could take today? Do you start with mindfulness? Where do you start them?
I would say just have the belief that you can change.
Just the belief. I like
Yeah, that you can be a better person and just take one day at a time. Because that's the real hard part is a lot of people want to just make a quantum leap. And you can't because when I channeled this information, I saw a stairway going up, going up, going up. And I was told that every step offers a gift, not just for you, but for the other person. So when you master, peace and harmony, you resonate and vibrate peace and harmony everywhere you go. People, I mean, it shocks the hell out of my husband. We have some cats, and every time I walk outside, he calls me the Pied Piper because they come out of the woodworks. They just know she's here, she's here, she's here. I'm friends with the turkeys. I feed at least 40 wild turkeys. And he's like, this is so wild. I'll be in a grocery store and just a random stranger comes up to me and we'll just have a beautiful conversation. And he's like, how do you do this stuff? And I said, because I'm a peaceful, harmonious person.
Yeah.
I'm sending this energy out. And actually, when you become it, it has that ripple effect. Everyone feels it around you.
That's amazing. Oh, this is kind of, I guess, approaching wrap up. I I find myself tempted to ask more about your channeling experience, though. Uh, how long did it take you to cultivate like your gift to be able to really tap into where you trusted it?
When I stopped, I would say, doubting myself. I mean, okay, your listeners will love this one. And this is a funny story.
Awesome.
I was coaching this woman back in, I think, like 2013. And it was about her son. And she was really trying to be supportive of her son because he was in a difficult marriage. And all of a sudden I start laughing. And she's like, you got an intuitive hit. What did you get? And I said, I don't know if I can tell you. I feel so uncomfortable what they're showing me and they're saying to me. She's like, no, 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 I need to hear it. And I said, okay, here we go. And I was doubting myself. I said, they're showing me this pair of big brass balls. And they're saying your son needs to grow a pair of big brass balls because this woman's got him by the balls. And she starts laughing and she said, I had that conversation just the other night with him. And I was like, good, because I thought this is crazy. Yes. So I've learned to trust it. I mean, I even once had a Catholic nun come see me, had PTSD. And she sat in my chair. And at the end of the session, she was like, do you know God talks to you? And I said, how do you know? And she said, because everything you described and were saying, I saw it. I was there. It's like you were holding my hand the whole way. And I said, I was actually. And she told me when she went back, it's actually in an episode on the Undetected Narcissists podcast about human consciousness, where she said, I got back to the convent and I thought that maybe I'd made a mistake because, everyone in the community said, no, she's the best. She's the best. You got to meet this woman. And I was standing in line for prayer and something told me, go outside where no one can see you. So I stepped outside and I was filled with the Holy Spirit. I was filled with divine love for 10 to 15 minutes. And I knew that's what speaks to you. And so I knew I had to not let my religion stand in the way of me healing. And I literally she's like, you're becoming a saint, when, she knew everything that, I'd been through with a narcissistic person. But I realized I had to go through that experience to do what I do now.
Mm.
to empower people, inspire people, because a lot of people think that a narcissist can't change. And the truth is we create them. And there was one gentleman when he was 35, I helped him. He wanted to become a better man. And he literally texted me last week on his 40th birthday, thanking me and sharing his YouTube channel of how he's inspiring people now to change, to get out of the doom and the gloom. And I was like so happy for this person, because he said, I needed just one person to believe in me, to one person to see potential in me. And that was you.
I love that. I really love how you expressed the brass ball story. Spirit, I think often we can get confused in that can't be from source, or that can't be from my higher self, because it's a reference to this or whatever. And in youth, I was told that this wouldn't ever come from spirit, but that's exactly how the messages come through in a way we can understand.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I remember, I'm, what do you call it? A medium, or what? I don't know what the label is, but I one time had a lady come see me for Stop Smoking. And before she left, her grandfather popped in, had his hand on my door, said, she can't leave until you tell her this message. And I'm like, what? And so he wanted me to tell her to stop telling the family members that she could see him, because they tease her and they tell her she's crazy. And she starts bawling. She's like, oh my God, I do. He's right there. And I said, good, I'm glad you can see him, but I only see him in my mind. And then her grandma pops in and she's telling me that, oh, she's got a stuffed animal from her grandma. It's a teddy bear. You have it on your bed. Whenever they make fun of you, cuddle that teddy bear. She's like, yes, it is on my bed. Oh my God. So when it comes in, and I just have to learn to trust it. I don't have to sometimes understand it, but I know how to trust it because it's pure.
Yeah. I think it's such a wonderful message, because I would say I'm out of 3D now, not living in 5D, but you touch it there for moments and learn to trust it and keep growing that connection. I love the way that you've described that. It's just the most real explanation I've heard in a little while.
Well, thank you, Jed.
Thanks, Kerie, for sharing your depth, your honesty, your practical wisdom. For the listeners, if today's insights stirred something in you, lean into it. These dimensional shifts aren't escapes. They're conscious evolutions that demand inner work and integrity. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, keep showing up. Yeah, Kerie, remind us the links where listeners can find you. You have your website.
Yes. So the website is mastertheupperrooms.com. Then there's also the undetectednarcissist.com. And you can listen to any of the seasons. I'm on season 4 right now. I'm on that. The podcast is on there. I'm on YouTube as well. And you can even just Google my name. It's spelled Kerie, last name Logan, and you'll see there's so much stuff. I'm even on Insight Timer, the meditation app. So I'm on that as well.
Great. Let's see. And did you offer?
Yes. Yes, I have a 15-minute free consultation. If anyone wants to, talk, you go to the website, you click on it, and then I will get a hold of you and figure out a time where we can chat. And then all these images that I created is on Master the Upper Rooms. Click on free stuff, free images, because there's free MP3 downloads, there's free ebooks. There's a lot of free stuff on that website.
You've got a powerful mission to help people. Is there one last message you want to share with us before we wrap it up?
Ooh, and I have some free meditations that are on the Undetected Narcissist podcast, like the one about forgiving the unforgivable. I did a meditation for that. There's lots of free meditations that are on there as well. So,
oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I know that our listeners are going to feel much more empowered after absorbing these lessons that you've shared with us today.
I hope so. All right. Have a great day, Jed. And all your listeners as well. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you for tuning into the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast, where Jed Brotherson takes you on a journey to confront the roots of your discontent and emerge significant. Remember to visit our website at www.pulverizingthepatterns.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Pulverizing the Patterns podcast.